Good evening, everyone. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com. Live once again in Mackey Arena, this time following Purdue's 83-78 win over Maryland. This is your goldenblack.com wrap video. It is brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Union Club Hotel. Thank you so much to them for their support. You know who might be staying at the Purdue Union Club Hotel here in a few days, for all I know? Barry Odom. Purdue's new football coach, as you may or may not even be aware yet, was announced during the Purdue basketball postgame press conference here, which was a little bit awkward, but it is done. It was the biggest story of the weekend. It was obviously leaked this morning to the favored few in the national media. So word was out, but it was made official this evening, literally right on top of Matt Painter's postgame press conference. Again, that was a little bit awkward. Letting the basketball game breathe a little bit might have, who am I to say? Anyway, this Purdue basketball game against Maryland, wasn't necessarily the biggest story in Purdue world today, but it was a big, big deal. And while there's other more important balls in the air here, bigger balls, did I really just say that? In the air. Thank God my readers and viewers are so mature that by no means would they have just chuckled like 13-year-old boys when I said that. Anyway, there are bigger stories. There are big stories going on right now, but we're gonna cover this game like it deserves to be covered because it was a really big deal. Purdue was 0-1 in the Big Ten. History has shown us that these are long Big Ten seasons. Early losses in December can be overcome. Purdue has lapped the field a few times here the last few years after losing one of these December games. But 0-2 and losing a home game in December would have been a bit of a different animal. So Purdue kind of had to have this one, in my opinion. And Maryland is good. I mean, it's so hard to know about these teams when you don't know their players from one year to the next. But Maryland's good. They just blitzed Ohio State. They came in here. They gave Purdue real problems, and that's where I think the significance of this win really lies. Not only did Purdue have to have it, but I think Purdue had to overcome a whole bunch of stuff here to get it, because I think this Purdue team has a few concerns that aren't gonna, just resolve themselves overnight. I think that Purdue is getting accustomed to life, this bizarre alternate world now where Purdue comes into these games with the smaller front court. These teams now are what Purdue was to a certain extent to them the last few years, where Maryland comes in here, rolls out Derek Queen, who's going to be a first-round draft pick in a few months, most likely. Still have Julian Reese for the 8th straight year at Maryland. You've got all these big dudes, and Purdue is skewing a little bit smaller. So Purdue's in the situation its opponents have kind of been in the last few years, where Purdue's trying to do to them what they were trying to do to Purdue before. You can win that way, for sure. That's kind of the way college basketball is going. Purdue was going against the grain there with all those 7-footers for a few years, and would be playing largely the same way, probably, had Daniel Jacobson not gotten hurt. But all the trade-offs that come with that are areas now where Purdue has to overachieve. They've got to really, really fight like hell, or some other word, on the glass with smaller people. Now, smaller people doesn't mean less athletic, weaker, anything like that, just smaller. Again, Camden Heide is not a wing anymore. Camden Heide is a big, strong, muscular fellow who's more athletic than people of his dimensions normally are. But he's not 6'9". He's not 6'9", 240 pounds. So he is smaller. He is guarding people who are not his positional category, historically, traditionally, whatever. So Purdue has to really overachieve on the glass. They have to do a great job boxing out. They have to do an even better job stopping the dribble, because opponents are going to have a physical mismatch to throw the ball up to, the way Purdue has had a physical mismatch with Ross-Ade to just throw the ball up to on somebody smaller. So there's a lot of stuff Purdue had to overcome in this game in that regard, and that's where you kind of see winning qualities come out. You kind of see fight come out. Matt Painter lamented his team's fight after the Penn State game, and then I thought it was very notable. Noted paint presence Fletcher Lawyer comes out and gets 7 rebounds in this game. Miles Colvin, cannot say enough about what Miles Colvin has become as a player. 7 rebounds in this game, including a bunch of closeout type rebounds in the final few minutes for at least the second or third time this season in a narrow win for Purdue. Miles Colvin is really getting clutch rebounds for this team, and that is defining him more than his athleticism and his scoring. Miles Colvin, I might add, too, had 2 putbacks in the first half when Purdue was struggling to score. The energy and the prioritization for him of being a rebounder and defender, again, one of the best stories of the season for Purdue. Cannot say enough about what those guys have done in terms of what Purdue needs to do to overachieve in some of the areas where it does not have baked-in advantages anymore like it always did. The other thing Purdue has to overcome, Purdue does not have a really, really ready and able third ball handler. So when you get pressed the way people are pressing Purdue right now, you are reminded how important and how timely and how good Lance Jones was. You do not have Lance Jones anymore. You do not have that speed, that quickness, that ball handler that is ready for games like this. C.J. Cox, is technically Purdue's backup point guard. We've come to find out here these first few weeks of the season, first few months on campus, that he is much more of a scoring lead guard type than a pure ball handling point guard. He has struggled a little bit against some of this backcourt pressure. He will grow into this. He will get more comfortable with experience. But for the time being, when they play against Penn State or they play against Maryland or they play against Marquette, he's got to grow up real quick. And that's been kind of an up and down thing. He's got to stay confident. Purdue's got to keep him propped up. Jakari Harris as well, although he's not had some of the press issues that I think C.J. Cox has. Harris's struggles as a freshman have lied in his shooting. Purdue's got to keep those guys confident because they need them. But this roster is not going to change on the fly. There's no free agent wire. There's no midseason portal yet. I'm sure there will be in a few weeks, but you can't go get somebody now. You got to play with what you got. And those guys have to get better with experience, but they've got to stay confident. They've got to understand that Purdue likes them. They belong at this level, things like that, and they need to just not get frazzled and not make bad decisions because they're trying to avoid certain uncomfortable situations. But that's another inherent thing that, Purdue is just going to have to overcome in certain situations. Fortunately, in this game, you needed Braden Smith a little bit more than you normally do, and you normally need him a lot, and you got the absolute best of Braden Smith in this game. And that is the reason Purdue won. From his playmaking, his 10 assists, to his shot making, the 5 threes, Maryland dropped off him, gave him a foot or two to get his 3 off every now and then, and he made them in really important times. Just every bit the All-America level play here from Braden Smith. He committed 1 turnover to 10 assists. I'm not sure that turnover was his fault either. I will go back and watch it tomorrow, but it looked like there was a little bit of zigging when someone was supposed to be zagging, but the turnover gets pinned on Braden Smith. But again, this was the best of Braden Smith when Purdue desperately needed it. He goes off as a scorer. He really unlocks Trey Kaufman-Renn there in the second half when Purdue's, in a possession-to-possession game, if not down by multiple possessions. Trey Kaufman-Renn gets 10 points in a row, I think it was. And those two together just sort of changed this game. After, some things happened for Maryland that were a little bit outlierish. Derek Queen made 2 threes in a row. He was 0 for 11 prior to that. That put Maryland up a couple possessions again after Purdue had made a run itself. Probably was the worst thing that happened to Maryland, because after that, Derek Queen, this monstrous man-child of a future pro, then suddenly decided he was going to shoot jumpers the rest of the game when he had a massive physical advantage down low that Maryland needed to be leveraging for high percentage shots. He floated on the perimeter. He missed a three. He missed a jumper after that, and he let Purdue off the hook. This is why Ross-Ade did not shoot threes at Purdue, because a 20% shot for him, he might have done better than that. I don't know, but Derek Queen was 0 for 11 prior to making those two. A 20% shot for Ross-Ade versus an 80% shot for Ross-Ade, or in this case, Derek Queen, you don't have to think too long and hard about that. I thought Derek Queen, in a roundabout way, really helped Maryland, but in helping Maryland really hurt Maryland, because it conditioned him the rest of the way, I think, to not play to Maryland's strengths. Break for Purdue, probably, but that doesn't take anything away from Purdue. The way they closed this game was really something. Again, Braden Smith just goes into superhero mode. Miles Colvin, again, with all the rebounding, the clutch rebounding, stuff like that. Trey Kaufman-Wren, not just taking over as a scorer, but hitting Camden Heide for, I think, that three, hitting him for that end one at the end in press break. Kaufman-Wren making big plays as a passer again, in a situation that can't possibly come natural to him, because how often has he been the last decision maker in press break? Probably never in his career. Maybe in high school. I have no idea, but I'm just talking here. So, got to give Purdue a ton of credit here for, again, overcoming some things, for getting the very best of Braden Smith, for him coming up big when his team needed him most. Another step toward a really big things in Trey Kaufman-Wren's career. Big plays by Fletcher Lawyer, big plays by Camden Heide, Miles Colvin. Just a really winning effort from Purdue here. And when they needed it, the power of Mackey Arena is always a real thing, and I'm sure that played into it a bit. Purdue made its free throws, didn't turn the ball over very much, even though it might have seemed in the second half like it had more turnovers than it actually did. Purdue got its clock cleaned on the glass in the first half, almost completely reversed that in the second. That is what winning teams do. When their best is needed, they flip a switch. And you see that time and you've seen that time and again from Purdue in Mackey Arena. And you saw it again here tonight. So coming off the Penn State loss, Purdue delivering the way it delivered here tonight, today, whatever it is. It's weird doing these videos with the sun shining in the door behind me. But for Purdue to do this, to kind of flip that switch in the second half, after the first half was just sheer survival, it felt like it was a really big deal. So that's what I got. I hope people paid attention to this game in a way commensurate, is that the word? To the importance of this game. This was awkward. This was a huge basketball game for Purdue. It came out basically right on top of news of Purdue's new football coach coming out. So lots for you guys to process here tonight. There will be lots more for you to process the rest of the week at goldenblack.com. Please go subscribe to our site, visit it, check it out. We think you'll like it. If you're one of the many, many, many people we picked up this week, thank you, welcome, and please stay. I normally don't beg, but we have a very robust, active Purdue community on our site, and we think you'd fit right in. I don't know you, but I'm going to make generalizations that you'll fit right in. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel once again for your support. Be kind to Barry Odom should he be taking up residence there at some point here in the next couple days. We need his sharpest, very best on Tuesday morning when Purdue introduces him to us. We all have to make our immediate judgments and define him for eternity thereafter. So thank you, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, no matter how drowned out those materials might be by vacuums and children. Thank you, everybody.